speaking of American jobs, we should cover this if we could go to clip 12. So here is Harold Daggett. He's the international president of the Longshoremen's Union.
That's what it means to be a mighty man of valor.
Oh, hell yeah. The Longshoremen's Association, there are around 47,000 workers, dock workers. They started a countrywide strike a few days ago, and it's still ongoing. Here is the president of the Longshoremen's Union speaking on the picket line, and he speaks here about Biden's labor secretary, Julie Su, praises her, and has some great rhetoric about corporate greed.
Over the weekend, the past
Secretary of Labor Julie Su.
Oh, by the way,
terrific.
Sorry, started over. This is on Fox News, News Live. So they weren't able to filter this beforehand, which is very fun.
Over the weekend, the past
Secretary of Labor Julie Su has been terrific. She's knocking down doors. She's trying to stop this. She's trying to get us to a media where we can have a fair negotiations. It's the companies that don't want to. They don't want to sit here and be fair. So that's why we're out here fighting for our livelihood.
What more from the automation do you want? What more protections could there be?
What more?
Yeah, they have language in there now.
Not strong enough, because what happens is they come in with new technology. We just caught them in Mobile, Alabama, called Autogate. Right. And that means the trucks are coming in and they're already checked in somewhere else and not using the checkers in the ILA.
Circumventing the contract.
Circumventing the contract. They don't care. They don't care. It's not fair. And if we don't put our foot down now, they would like to run over us, and we're not going to allow that.
You are going to grind the economy to a halt here on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast.
No, not us. They are. Don't spin it now, because you're Fox News.
But are you worried? Are you worried that this strike?
They have the capital to settle this thing.
Are you worried that this strike is going to hurt the everyday American, the farmers that need to reach the export market? They're telling me that they're going to hurt through all
Now you
of this.
start to realize who the longshoremen are, right?
Nobody cares.
People never gave a about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world. And it's time for them and time for Washington to put so much pressure on them to take care of us, because we took care of them and we're here 135 years and brought them where they are today, and they don't want to share.
That's amazing.
Man.
So good. And him calling out Fox News is just phenomenal. And it's right. Like, you want a globalized marketplace where there's these complex supply chains, because you can get cheap labor in other countries, and companies get to shave down their operating costs so they can get stock buybacks for the guys at the very top. You know who makes that happen? The longshoremen, who handle the shipping and who handle the materials that make the economy go. And Biden, again, to his credit, hasn't decided to Taft-Hartley these guys. There's an insidious reason that Sam has said, like, there were maybe rumblings because, like, shipments to Israel in terms of arms need to go out. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm glad that whatever the reasoning, Biden should not be breaking this strike like he did with the railroad strike. This is a really seminal moment. And I mean, look, Biden's self-interest knows no bounds, and maybe this would be a different situation if he were the one running for re-election, frankly. But he's been the most pro-labor president in most of our lifetimes. If you're watching this, that's actually absolutely accurate.
But yes.
And Julie Su gets praise at the outset of that, rightly so, because the fact that she's had their backs, or that's what he's saying, that's important to hear. And the last time that there was a strike of this magnitude with the dock workers was in the 1970s. And they were able to get guaranteed income for their members when they weren't even on the job, and a pay hike during that 1970s strike. This time around, they're asking for pay increases and benefits increases, but also an elimination of surveillance technology and cameras that bosses have been using to watch these longshoremen as they do their jobs.
Harold Daggett was on Democracy Now! A few days ago too. He said this, or this was quoted. We went on strike in 1977 for 3 months for 80 cents. Fast forward, back then the companies were lucky to make, they made millions of dollars, 10 million, 5 million. Today they make billions and billions of dollars. They make, MSC is the richest shipping company in the world, made 3 times the money than Amazon.
Wow.
A lot of money, right? Billions. Well, one of the companies, and I won't mention his name, it's interesting. He took himself for Christmas bonus $4 billion. He took it out for him and his family, $4 billion. A French company. I won't mention their name. They gave all their employees 50 months salary as a Christmas gift. Now look at that money. They have so much money they don't even know what to do with it. And I like that because there's a weird thing that goes on here. I think most people are becoming more and more pro-labor. I think that shows up in polling. There's this weird pocket watching thing that they find out that the people going on strike like actually aren't just basically immiserated. That, well, why are you going on strike then? As opposed to say, well, what can we learn from you to help claw back money from these capitalists? As he said, these people that live in offices give themselves, the owners, billions of dollars bonuses, millions of dollars for the white collar folks. And what these folks decide, like, actually it's time for us to get a raise now because the people that are right above us have been raking it, absolutely raking it for the past 4 years. There's still this instinctive, like, well, do they need it? It's sick.
Well, I mean, yeah, you heard her at the end, like, this always referencing, what about the average American who's going to suffer if you go on strike? It's just a way to segregate the working class. It's a way to put workers against each other when, the longshoremen aren't the reason why you're paid less than they are. Your bosses, lack of organized labor in your industry is the reason why you're paid less than they are. And that's not their fault. That's the fault of a vast majority of bosses and managerial class types who ensure that workers are unable to organize, or like we've seen, like you said before, recently, the need for organized labor was tamped down on because there was just a whole scale propaganda campaign that it was bad for you. That like, oh, you could just directly negotiate with your boss who was looking out for you, as opposed to working in solidarity with not just workers in your own industry, but across industries. And you see the same thing with teachers unions when people reference how teachers unions going on strike inconvenience workers because they can't, who's going to watch your kids. None of that stuff is the fault of the organized workers who are going on strike. It's the fault of the government. It's the fault of your bosses, not theirs.
Exactly. If they don't want. Yeah, go ahead, Binder.
No, I was just saying that's a great point. I mean, absolutely.
We should all be paid as much as longshoremen.
What'd you say?
We should all be paid as much as longshoremen.
Yes. They have our support.
It has been a sort of a breath of fresh air to see like this the rise in like this pro-union sentiment among across industries. Yeah. Like we've been seeing this really across the board, everywhere from like, labor jobs like that, even to like this uptick of like, tech unionization, digital media unionization. And then even in like the service industry, this like a sudden burst over the past couple of years of unionization in these sorts of jobs where I think that's possibly the biggest one, because those are jobs that are sort of like the jobs that basically like require no sort of special training in any sort of field, college or otherwise. And I feel like that covers such a larger, more broad subsect of people. Like, for example, like Starbucks unionization, like that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not coming out of nowhere. It's this resurgence of labor and organized labor and appreciation for organized labor is coming as a result of decades of stagnation wages, decades of watching, billionaires come out of nowhere by exploiting their workers. And it was inevitable that we'd see this resurgence, even if we have in many ways stripped labor history out of the classrooms of America. I can't even remember the last time I talked to someone who's in school and they learned about a strike, or one of the many massacres that happened at the strikes. So it's in many ways people have to reteach themselves this language of organized labor, and they're doing it rapidly as a necessity to fight back against the exfiltration of wealth to the top 1%.
Yep, absolutely. The Devil's Region says, I think it's really pro-worker that you folks let the toilet paper guys speak in these discussions. He seems pretty well informed. Maybe he should be considered for promotion.
Let's not call me the toilet paper guy.
I mean, yeah,
I think your
people who are tuning into
protestation may have gone.
People tuning into the majority report for the first time, if they just happen to join the channel just as Matt's got his camera up, they might be thinking, "Oh, how cool! This show talks to the janitor." You know?
Yeah, live from the supply room.
Matt closed the door, and he's closing the door on Toilet Paper Man as the nickname for him.
TPUSA.
I'll reclaim. I'll reclaim the name Matt, and going forward, this could be. We could just call Matt Matt the janitor.
I will not.
No, I'm joking. No.
No, I know. New Dad says it's because the Polish guy killed him. I guess, did the Polish guy kill McKinley? What that would have to do with the guy who was, I guess, pro-Ukraine or something. But New Dad said that. Okay, Floyd the Barber, Trump's slur has gotten so bad. Binder Dad, McKinley is the last president prior to Trump not to have a pet. I didn't know that. Need to do a fact check.
It's a sign. Trump has a pet, though. Haven't you seen JD Vance?
The Devil's Region says Trump's teeth are falling out again. You'd think he could afford denture adhesive.
He looked really bad in that video clip we played. Like he was extremely red. Like he looked unhealthy. Like when you look like that red and you're not doing like an intense workout, someone should probably check how your heart's doing and if your veins are pumping the right amount of blood.
I love when he looks wet.
Yeah, very sweaty.
I think I'm going to chalk up the seasonal allergies. Mine have also been bad for the past few days. So I really appreciate that. Like it can really incapacitate you. I will say I am always afraid that my mouth sounds as wet as his did in that interview when I'm talking on like camera. So
Bullprog says JD said in the debate that tariffs would help raise wages. That's hilarious.
The kind of tariffs they're talking about, that's like basically sanctioning your own country is essentially it. It's basically just, I mean, go for it. But like the American people are not going to be happy about it when they try to buy something off Temu and it's like $100 now.
Yes. Cold Dog reminds me when Steven Crowder got punched in the face by that one union worker years ago. Good memories. Nick from PA, the New York Post is already showing the longshoreman union bosses making with multi-million-dollar mansions.
Good, that's awesome. Here's the thing: is why is it that when a multi-million-dollar mansion is owned by people who earned their income through parasitic, like passive income stuff or owning stuff, that's fine. But somebody actually like does a job that moves all the stuff that those parasites were taking a cut from just for the virtues of like having a lot of money. When they have those houses, it's a problem. Those are the people that should have the houses. Yeah. Same with like professional athletes. There are certain people who like, I think contribute and ultimately like, fine, we want to have less inequality in society. I don't think we start with the fucking longshoremen.
Right.
We also have to acknowledge that this is just about what kind of work longshoremen do and the belief that laborers just shouldn't make that much money in our society. Yep. There's just people who look down on blue collar work, on service work, and a lot of pushback against paying service workers more money, paying longshoremen more money is because there's supposed to be a stratification of types of worker. You're supposed to be, if you work at an office at a computer messing around with Jira all day, you're supposed to make more money than somebody who worked with their hands, because then how can you feel superior to them? Totally. If you can make, people tell you like, oh, if I can make that much money hauling, containers often onto ships, why would I go to college? It's like, why would you? Why? Yeah. Like, that's a good thing, right? They're supposed to have opportunities.
Last night, before the dock workers essentially didn't resolve their strike, but punted it for a negotiation concession by management to raise pay about 60%. They've lagged quite a bit behind West Coast dock workers. And so this is to get them up in parity.
And this has been Fox News' entire week. They've been smearing.
They're praying for like a food shortages or
exactly.
goods shortage. Yes.
And they've been the New York Post and Fox News. They've been showing images of, the union president's house and how much money he makes. And they've just gone all in on attacking the dock workers.
And just to qualify here, this broke, the agreement broke just right before the Ingram angle started. So she's reacting basically in time to the news of the deal.
So after all of that propaganda and fear mongering about this is how Laura Ingram responds right after the news breaks.
Timing, the port strike suspended until January 15th. What's going on and what can we learn from what happened in the last few weeks alone? Next.
I believe in consistent and transparent rules of the road to create a stable business environment. I've always been and will always be a strong supporter of workers and unions.
Well, the longshoremen strike may be temporarily suspended until mid-January, and although Kamala Harris, of course, breathing a sigh of relief tonight, American voters shouldn't. We should never have been here in the first place, and the Biden-Harris economy helped get us here. And we could be back here once again in a different strike and a different challenge. And luck isn't a strategy. Kamala Harris is ill-equipped to manage the coming storms. Remember, she's never had to make payroll. She has no clue about supply chains and how they work. And not to diss part-time work at McDonald's in high school, which I did. It's kind of fun. But that's the extent of her private sector experience. And we're supposed to trust her with overseeing a $28 trillion economy? What we can expect from her, and you heard in that initial soundbite, is more meaningless blather written by consultants. The fact is, Kamala's union pals are doing everything to destabilize America's business environment. Or what do you call the words of a union heavy, Harold Daggett, bragging about how they have the power to bring America to a standstill.
Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you.
What a nice guy.
Well, I mean, the fact is, he's right. She doesn't like the labor being, flexing what their muscle is, and that is withholding of their labor. They would cripple the economy. Now, it's weird.
And they should be paid respect.
Well, yeah, but she's all over the place in terms of this is a function of the Biden-Harris economy. Well, if workers have the ability to demand higher wages, that suggests that there is upward wage pressure and that's a good thing for, 90%, 86% of the population in this country. The idea that Laura Ingram has, met a payroll. She was basically a speechwriter. She worked at a law firm.
Right.
And then basically has been sitting on the radio for what payroll has she met?
I know, it's just ridiculous. First of all,
she's so mad though. She's so mad that this got resolved because he thought she was going to have the opportunity to build this whole sort of narrative. We're going to take our time with this. We're going to walk through because this will never get resolved. And we're going to build this whole thing. And it's going to be Harris and Biden are responsible for empty shelves. It's just like Venezuela and the old Soviet Union, whatever it is. And now it's all just went away. It's all nobody even knew. Nobody was aware of this strike going on outside of her show. She had built it up and then it all falls apart.
Well, I mean, I think the business press had been hammering it and freaking out, and Fox News probably had a million segments prepared about how horrible the Biden-Harris people are for the economy because they're pro-labor or whatever. But that's what he was saying that she was so outraged over is exactly why they need to be paid in a way that matches their role in the economy. If so much capital is in the hands of these longshoremen, that's why they should be getting paid in a manner that respects the value that they're providing. But because they aren't basically involved in the passive income investment game, and they're providing value with their sweat and their labor, that doesn't count for people like Laura Ingraham, which is just incredible to me, because they pretend that they're speaking to the everyman, when in reality they're speaking to very wealthy people and crotchety old grandparents.
And to be clear, also I lost my thought here. That she's her complaints are really just that it didn't resonate, and these workers have watched the shipping companies make billions upon billions of billions in profit. And all they're basically saying is that we'd like to participate a little bit in this. And
they were mad that the economic numbers, the underlying ones, are so good right now in terms of the traditional metrics that are used. Like the stock market hit record highs a few days in a row last week or 2 weeks ago. And you saw Larry Kudlow steaming through his ears about it. They can't hit Harris on the economy. We just saw there's a Cook Report survey that she's closed the gap and is basically tied with Trump on combating inflation, which, as I said earlier, Democrats never do well on the economy in polling numbers. But this is what the whole Fox News apparatus thought they'd be able to go after her about, Comrade Kamala. And it's falling apart because the economy's doing pretty well.
Yep. She doesn't have the ability to, and she's certainly not going to hit them on, via the left. Like, we need more.
Right.
We weren't able to maintain the extension of the child tax credit.
More antitrust.
Yep. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.